Alright, I'm finally doing it. I'm finally starting to make some actual videos. It's been like a full year since I've done the last one. This specific video, I've been waiting for like 3 weeks to record because I just didn't have time to, I just didn't want to, I don't know. It's 3+ weeks to do that. I'm hoping that I'll be able to make a couple of these a week. They're pretty easy and require like no editing, which is kind of why I structure them the way that they are, to avoid doing editing, because I don't have time for that. At least not at the moment. So this first one's just pretty brief. This is just going to be discussing the issue of Pascal's wager, which is a argument utilized by some Christians to argue why one should believe, but I actually think it's a really bad argument. So this square right here is the general gist of it. So effectively what the argument says is that you should follow God, because if you don't follow God, then you go to hell. And you want to avoid that to much as possible. So it's essentially saying that if God exists, you should follow him. If God doesn't exist, then it doesn't matter if you follow him or not, because it doesn't really matter the result. And there's a couple of key issues that I have with this particular argument. But yeah, so just going kind of briefly through this. Obviously, if you follow God and God exists, that's the good result. And then if God doesn't exist at all, then you just get kind of a neutral result. Nothing really happens. Obviously, some skeptics will be like, oh, if God's not real and you still follow him, then this is just going to be like a waste of time. You're wasting your life, whatever. But generally speaking, this is just neutral. And then obviously you want to avoid the bad position. So what is the actual problem with this? There's two things. The first is that it falsely assumes a binary issue. It assumes that basically either Christianity true or it's not. It removes the possibility that other religions such as Judaism or Islam could end up being true. Obviously, and that's like kind of what breaks this entire argument apart, is you can't just say, oh, it takes away any possibility for another option, like maybe you follow a god of a different religion and that's what makes you go to heaven. In that case, you're following a false god. Even if God is real and you're following a god, it might not be the true god, so you end up going to hell anyways. So that kind of just breaks the entire argument apart logically. The other issue I have with this is that it is somewhat manipulative. It basically gives this sort of like a choice for people. It's kind of it kind of is a backbone of the Turner Burn sort of evangelism, which I strongly dislike, just because I find that it's oftentimes not productive enough to actually bring people to Christ. It oftentimes will just bring people away from the church, at least in modern days. And on top of that, it's going to, and generally speaking, when it comes to preaching the gospel, I think the approach should be more along the lines of, you want to follow Christ, you want to follow Christ instead of fear of hell. That's just the general gist. Like that's what the gospel is. That's what the gospel should be. We don't want people to be obedient to Christ over fear of hell. You want people to be obedient to Christ due to a desire to get to know Christ. Now, obviously, this argument is basically condemned for like a lot of people, but you will see this in like your lower level Twitter, Reddit Christians trying to defend their faith at a very basic level. And I just think that it just needs to stop. This argument sucks. Everyone agrees it sucks. So let's just please find something better.